The first thing he noticed wasn't the empty chair across from her. It was the way she kept checking the door. Not casually, not with mild curiosity, but with a fragile kind of hope that flickered and dimmed every time it opened and someone else walked in. Her fingers tightened around a glass of water she hadn't touched, her posture stiff, like she was trying to hold herself together in a room that had already decided her story. Ethan Cole almost looked away. He wasn't the kind of man who inserted himself into strangers' lives. He had learned the hard way that most people preferred distance, especially in a city that moved as fast and indifferent as this one. But something about her, something quiet and breaking, pulled at him. Maybe it was because he'd seen that look before. In the mirror? "Daddy, why is she sad?" The small voice beside him snapped him out of his thoughts. Lily, his 5-year-old daughter, swung her legs gently under the table, her wide eyes fixed on the woman across the room. Ethan sighed softly. "We don't know that she is," he said, though he knew exactly what Lily meant. "Yes, she is," Lily insisted in a whisper. "She keeps looking like she's waiting for someone who forgot her." The words landed heavier than they should have. Ethan followed Lily's gaze again. The woman glanced at her phone, her expression falling just a little more with each passing minute. A waiter approached her table, speaking gently, and she forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. Ethan knew that smile, too. He'd worn it the day his wife walked out, leaving behind a quiet apartment, a confused toddler, and a silence that felt louder than any argument. "Can we help her?" Lily asked. He hesitated. Life had taught him to be careful, to mind his own business, to survive, not intervene. But it had also taught him something else, something harder, something deeper. That sometimes the smallest act of kindness could be the difference between someone breaking and someone holding on. Ethan exhaled slowly. "Okay," he said. Before he could overthink it, he stood, taking Lily's hand, and walked toward the woman's table. "Hey," he said gently, offering a polite smile. "I hope this doesn't come off weird, but my daughter thinks you might be having a rough night." The woman blinked, caught off guard. For a moment, embarrassment flickered across her face. No, I'm fine," she said quickly. Lily tilted her head. "You don't look fine." Ethan winced slightly. "She's still working on her filter." To his surprise, the woman let out a small laugh. It was soft, almost hesitant, but real. "That's okay," she said. "She's not wrong." There was a pause. One of those moments where a stranger could either step back or step closer. Ethan chose closer. "Would you like to join us?" he offered. "No pressure. Just no one should have to sit alone when they were expecting someone else." The woman looked at the empty chair across from her, then back at them. For a second, it seemed like she might refuse. Then her shoulders relaxed just a little. "Okay," she said quietly. Her name was Claire. She didn't offer a last name, and Ethan didn't ask. They moved her drink over to his table, and for the first time since she'd walked into the restaurant, she didn't look like she was waiting anymore. Lily took an immediate liking to her, launching into an enthusiastic explanation of her favorite cartoons, her school, and her belief that pancakes should be considered dinner food. Claire listened, genuinely listened, her expression softening with each passing minute. "You're very wise," she told Lily. "I know," Lily said confidently. Ethan chuckled, shaking his head. "Don't encourage her." Claire smiled, but there was something behind it, something heavier than the moment. "You two do this often?" she asked. "Rescue strangers from bad dates?" Ethan said lightly. "Not usually." Her lips curved faintly. "Good. I'd hate to think I wasn't special." The humor lingered for a moment before fading into something more honest. "He didn't show up," she admitted. "No message. No call, just nothing." Ethan nodded slowly. "Yeah, that kind of silence says a lot." Claire looked down at her hands. "I don't usually do this, you know. Blind dates, taking chances on people I don't know." She paused. "I guess I just thought maybe this time would be different." Ethan leaned back slightly, considering her words. "Different doesn't always mean better," he said. "Sometimes it just means unexpected." She glanced up at him. "And this is unexpected?" "Very," he admitted. "But not in a bad way." For the first time, her smile reached her eyes. The night unfolded in a way none of them had planned. What started as a simple gesture turned into something warmer, something fuller. They shared stories, some light, some heavier than expected. Ethan told her about raising Lily on his own, about the long nights and early mornings, about the fear of not being enough and the quiet determination to try anyway. Claire listened with a kind of attention that felt rare. "You make it sound so simple," she said. "It's not," Ethan replied. "It's messy and exhausting and sometimes terrifying, but it's also worth it. Every single day." Claire nodded, her gaze distant for a moment. "I don't have that," she said softly. Ethan tilted his head. "Family?" "Not really," she admitted. "I have people around me, but it's not the same." There was a loneliness in her voice that didn't match her polished appearance. Ethan recognized it instantly. "Sometimes," he said gently, "having people isn't the same as having someone." Claire met his eyes, something unspoken passing between them. When the check came, Ethan reached for it automatically. Claire raised an eyebrow. "You don't have to do that." "I know," he said. "I want to." She studied him for a moment. "You don't even know me." Ethan shrugged lightly. "I know enough." "And what's that?" "That you deserved better than tonight," he said simply. Her expression shifted. Something deeper breaking through her carefully composed exterior. "You're kind," she said. He shook his head. "I just didn't walk away." They stepped outside into the cool night air, the city humming around them. For a moment, none of them spoke. Then Claire turned to him. "Thank you," she said. "For all of it." Ethan smiled. "Any time." She hesitated, then added, "Can I see you again?" The question caught him off guard. He glanced at Lily, who was already watching them with interest. "Maybe," he said carefully. "Life's a little unpredictable for us." Claire nodded. "I understand." She reached into her bag and pulled out a card, handing it to him. "Call me," she said. "If you want to." Ethan glanced at it briefly before slipping it into his pocket without looking too closely. "Good night, Claire." "Good night, Ethan." It wasn't until later that night, after Lily had fallen asleep on the couch, that Ethan finally looked at the card and froze. His eyes scanned the name, the title beneath it. The company logo he recognized instantly. Claire Montgomery, CEO, one of the largest tech firms in the country. A billionaire. Ethan let out a quiet breath, leaning back against the wall. "You've got to be kidding me," he muttered. The next few days were filled with hesitation. What did you even say to someone like that? What did you offer? But then he thought about the woman in the restaurant, the one who had been stood up, who had laughed at Lily's honesty, who had admitted she felt alone despite everything she had. She hadn't been a billionaire that night. She had just been Claire, and he had just been Ethan, so he called. When they met again, it wasn't in a fancy restaurant or a high-rise office. It was at a small park near Ethan's apartment, where Lily could play and the world felt a little less complicated. Claire arrived in simple clothes. Her usual polished image softened into something more real. "You called," she said, a hint of relief in her voice. "I did," Ethan replied. They walked together as Lily ran ahead, laughter filling the space between them. "You don't seem surprised," Claire said after a while. "About what?" "Who I am." Ethan shrugged. "I met you before I knew all that." "Doesn't really change anything." She stopped walking, turning to face him. "It changes everything for most people," she said quietly. "Yeah," he admitted. "But I'm not most people." Claire studied him, her expression searching. "Why?" she asked. Ethan thought for a moment. "Because at the end of the day," he said, "you were still the woman sitting alone, hoping someone would show up." Her breath caught slightly. "And you're still the man who did," she said. Months later, their lives looked different. Not perfect, not easy, but fuller. Claire learned how to slow down, how to be present in moments that didn't require success or strategy. Ethan learned that letting someone in didn't mean losing himself. And Lily? She got someone who showed up. Not with grand gestures, but with quiet consistency. One evening, as they sat together watching the sunset, Claire leaned her head against Ethan's shoulder. "You know," she said softly, "I thought that night was the worst thing that could have happened to me." Ethan smiled. "Funny how that works." She looked at him, her eyes warm. It turned out to be the best. Ethan glanced at Lily, then back at Claire. "Yeah," he said. It did. And somewhere in the quiet space between what was and what could have been, they both understood something simple, something powerful. Sometimes the person who shows up when no one else does changes everything.